You want to talk running backs?
That's everyone's favorite position, probably the most important position.
All right, the forgotten guy is Shaun Draughn.
Shaun Draughn.
Because he had kind of a surprising good game.
He was the used man. He was the guy that got the carries for the San Francisco 49ers. You didn't know who it was going to be with all the injuries there.
2 weeks ago, though.
Yeah, because they were on bye.
Right.
So they go to bye, and you forget who Shaun Draughn is. So the real question for me in whether or not you like Shaun Draughn this week is Carlos Hyde. What is, we got to monitor and see if Carlos Hyde is actually going to be practicing this week, if he's going to be playing this week, because obviously if he plays, Shaun Draughn's worthless.
Yeah, I mean, that is completely the truth. If you're in a pinch and you know Hyde is out, they say he's feeling better. He's day-to-day. That's the reports, right? But we're coming through a bye week, and we need to see what he does this week. I don't think Carlos Hyde plays this week. And so let's pretend Carlos Hyde is rolled out. You could kind of throw him out there or no? Because he's playing the Seahawks.
Yeah, exactly. No, Shaun Draughn is a guy that we should talk about just so you know who he is for the future. But I was going to have you ask me what kind of faith I had in Shaun Draughn.
And what kind of faith do you have in him?
None. Okay. Next.
All right.
Who else?
Here's some guys that I don't have a lot of faith in despite their numbers this past week. The Matt Jones, Alfred Morris dance.
They're going to be on a lot of waivers. They get a lot of use. And this last week, they put up a lot of yards, Andy. Tell me why you don't have faith in that combo. And if you had to have faith in one, who would it be?
I guess if I had to have faith in one, it's going to be Matt Jones because he's going to be involved slightly more in the passing game. Okay, Chris Thompson's really the passing game back. Jones is younger. Jones showed a big playability this past week that you just don't have with Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris isn't going to catch a screen pass and go 70-something yards for a touchdown. The reason I don't have a lot of confidence in them is because we've seen Matt Jones flash earlier in the year and just put up dud after dud after dud after dud after dud. The running game hadn't been able to perform, and they faced New Orleans, who just fired Rob Ryan, by the way.
Right.
Farewell, you silverback gorilla. And that's not nice at all.
That's not nice.
It just came out. I'm sure he'll get a job somewhere
because of his last name.
Because he's Rob Ryan. But anyway, I just don't have confidence in the running game going. If they have a game where they're running super well, then you have a game like this. But it's happened once this year.
Yeah, and when it's not going to happen? It's not going to happen this week against the Carolina Panthers.
No.
So, yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying you don't sign them because there's not a lot of running backs that are available, but I dropped Matt Jones last week, and I'm not re-signing him.
Yeah, Matt Jones, if you want to sign him, he is a worthy sign to have on your roster in case of injury or good matchup. He's a potential – here's what he is. He's a guy that you can stash on your bench, and if you need a start – in a week or in 2 weeks, let's say, you've got an injury.
In a good matchup.
And he's in a good matchup. He's a guy that when you put out, sure, he could put up 2 points, but he could also put up 20 on some breakaway run. So he's worth having.
Yeah, he's the classic case of if you chase the points with Morris or Jones this week, you're going to be bummed. You're going to go, oh, my gosh. That's what the amateur fantasy football player is going to do is they're going to sign Matt Jones and start him this week because he scored what he did last week.
And no one that listens to our show is an amateur noob fantasy football player, not by this point in the season.
So let the other guys in your league sign him and play him against you.
If you want to sign him, no problem with that. Do not play him.
All right, I want to bring up James White again. I know he didn't have a big week last week, but the truth is he was on the field. James White, running back for the New England Patriots, he was on the field for 28 snaps. LeGarrette Blount was on the field for 38 snaps, okay? That should tell you something. James White is being involved a little bit more. He had a reception, very few touches. I think he had 2 touches in the game. That being said, you just lost Edelman. My opinion is if this team has to start leaning on additional pieces, he's going to be involved. I think he's worth a flyer if you're running back. If you're in a deeper league with running back needs.
I agree. I would take James White over Matt Jones, Alfred Morris, Shaun Draughn, all of those guys. James White would easily be my number one claim. Even if I'm just saying, who do I start this week? I would prefer James White over the other guys just this week and rest of season.
Yeah,
so
there
he's
you go.
Definitely the first.
All right, so what do we do with the TJ Yeldon situation in the waiver wire? Because if you're a Yeldon owner, do you now handcuff him?
I think you do. I think Denard Robinson, we saw him get injured a little bit earlier this year. TJ Yeldon wasn't sure if he was going to play, and Denard got like 7 carries. Toby Gerhart was used, but then what happened? Toby Gerhart had his infamous
4-time stuff on the goal line.
4 stuff in a row on the goal line. What happened after that? You had some coaching changes. What happened after that? You get 2 healthy scratches of Toby Gerhart.
I like a healthy scratch.
Healthy scratches, not active for the game. They said, Denard Robinson is the backup here. So now, while I expect if Yeldon is out, Gerhart's going to be active. Gerhart will get some touches because they have to have, another running back to spell him. But I think it's going to be Denard Robinson. He looked great in preseason. Last year when he came in, based on injury in front of him, he looked great. Jacksonville's not a great match. You think it is.
You meant Tennessee?
Or yes, Tennessee. Tennessee you think is a great matchup because they're not that good of a team overall. They're actually pretty tough against the run. So I'm not in love with Denard. However, I believe they play the Chargers the week after that. So this is a good time to sign him. If TJ Yeldon's foot seems to be something that keeps him out for multiple weeks, I actually like Denard Robinson. I'd put him right behind James White for me. And if,
quick aside then, because we're talking handcuffs. This is the time of year. It's week number 11 coming up. Playoffs are about to begin.
Playoffs.
And we're really big on ensuring your roster to the sense that sign a handcuff that is relevant to your team, okay? We're not really big on go try to figure out the handcuff for Latavius Murray, okay? That's not a very fun situation right now because you don't know if it's going to be Tywan Jones one week or Marcel Reese or the guy's name I can't even pronounce, Olawale. And those are the bad situations.
If you don't know who the handcuff is,
don't worry about it.
There's no handcuff.
Yeah, there's no handcuff. So, but there are a number of handcuffs that I want to bring up. So Denard Robinson is attached to Yeldon. The basic philosophy here is you're going to head into the playoffs. A lot of people have fab budgets that are spent out, okay, or close to spent out at this point in the season. So if you can sign your handcuff now, just do it.
Yeah, you got to sign
the
them
roster spot up
before they're valuable, before other teams are even looking at them.
And so you guys know this if you're listening to the show with one of the big guys. You probably already have them. But Devontae Freeman, you're handcuffing him with Tevin Coleman. No doubt. And he's your biggest number one handcuff, right?
Tevin Coleman is my number one handcuff. He is a good enough handcuff where I think
if Freeman went down.
Yeah, if he's out there and you don't have Freeman, I would snake him if you've got an open roster spot for him. After that, I would go with Jay Ajayi. I think Ajayi has looked amazing. Now, the head coach came out and said, look, Lamar Miller's the guy. He is the starter. He is the workhorse.
But the fact that conversation had to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
It tells you a guy's performing well and that they don't need to necessarily put the workload on Lamar Miller to the nth degree. And if he gets hurt.
Disclaimers are there for a reason. Every time you see a disclaimer, you go, I wonder what happened to make them have to say this. Well, that's what happened. Ajayi looks as good as he did in college, which was incredible. He's just a handcuff. If Miller gets injured, you got to have him.
Here's a guy that might blow your mind. Tim Hightower. 11 carries for 46 yards last week. And honestly, he's the Mark Ingram handcuff.
Andy?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know who Tim Hightower is.
That's not the voice of public opinion. That's the voice of ignorance.
No, well, I think that most
all
people,
Cardinal fans.
I think the voice of public opinion, as a Cardinal fan,
we
being
know
in
who
Arizona,
Tim Hightower is.
Exactly.
Because he rumbled into the end zone in the NFC title game to send us to the Super Bowl.
3 weeks ago, Tim Hightower wasn't even on a team. So,
but the fact that the Cardinals were not exactly in the Super Bowl last year. This was a long time ago. Tim Hightower has fought back from injuries. He was re-signed. For some reason, C.J. Spiller is just not the guy for that team.
I wonder if Drew Brees hates him or if he got hurt because of some missed pass protection.
Do you think the coaching staff had C.J. Spiller on their fantasy teams in recent years, and that's what is going on?
Yeah, no. They wouldn't have signed him
good point.
To New Orleans. But C.J. Spiller is clearly not the handcuff. So now Ingram got hurt last game. I don't know if you realize that. He started the game on fire, had like 98 yards and a couple of carries, and they didn't play for a bunch of that game. Came in a little bit later in the fourth quarter, which is great for just injury purposes. I don't expect him to miss any time, but he does have a history of injuries, and
he's had a lot of carries this year.
Yeah, so Hightower might be worth someone. Now, that being said,
I don't know who I'd rather have, to be honest, between them.
I would rather, if Ingram goes down, I think Hightower is a worthy start, and he will be fine, but I'm not going to roster Hightower.
Right.
I don't think he's a handcuff. The way we're talking about, you're not sure, then he's not one.
Okay. So another situation then, Adrian Peterson, do you handcuff him with McKinnon?
I don't, but that would be the guy if you were to handcuff him. McKinnon. I think it's going to be McKinnon and Asiata in a split.
Yeah, we saw that before. It wasn't great.
Right.
McKinnon is the better talent. Justin Forsett, you got to have him handcuffed. You got to have
Buck Allen,
Javorius Allen on your roster. He's another guy.
I think Charles Sims is a guy you have to have if you've got Doug Martin.
Yep.
Doug Martin goes down, Charles Sims is going to be great.
That's a hard one, though, because Sims has been startable in a lot of leagues, and he's probably signed by somebody else if you don't have him. You got Thomas Rawls for Marshawn Lynch. He's obviously shown that he can. I mean, I think Rawls is a guy in dynasty leagues you need to look at because Lynch is going to move on from this team eventually, and Rawls has just shown a ferocity and an ability to kind of be a mini Lynch out there with some breakaway speed. I'm really impressed with him. Frank Gore in Indianapolis. It's going to be tough sledding on that offense, but you got to have him handcuffed, don't you?
Yeah, Ahmad Bradshaw's the clear guy. They cut Josh Robinson because Ahmad Bradshaw is a fully capable workhorse back should Gore go down. So that being said, I would try to hold off a couple weeks if you need that roster spot just because Andrew Luck's not there. So it's going to hurt the whole offense.
All right, Shady McCoy, we've talked about him already. Carlos Williams is probably signed in your league, hopefully by you, but he really ensures that backfield. If you have McCoy and Carlos Williams, you probably are very confident moving forward into the playoffs.
Yeah, one of your running back slots is just a guaranteed you're solid there.
Unless they both get hurt, like happened in the very beginning of the year.
I guess
and we're talking about Booby.
There you go, Booby Dixon.
All right, let's move on to the waiver wire at the tight end position. One guy that kind of stands out to me that we got to see a little bit more of this week was Crockett Gilmore. He's been brought up on the show before, but now Steve Smith is gone. There's a reliance on Crockett Gilmore in the offense.
I love Crockett Gilmore, and not just because his name is Crockett.
But mostly.
He gets targets. Joe Flacco.
What are his odds on a coming on party this week?
I think they're decent. Crockett Gilmore should have. Now, he goes up against the Rams. The Rams are usually pretty good against the tight end. Obviously, Zach Miller ate them alive this last week, but that was on some broken plays. So Crockett Gilmore is a guy you can sign, you could start. For me, you want to know who I would sign over him? Would be Eric Ebron.
Absolutely.
Ebron had a terrible game, had a case of the butterfingers like crazy. So
they call those the Mike Evans now.
I wanted to bring this up. Tyler Eifert last night.
Ugh.
You talk about drops. I mean, disgusting, super drops. He had 3 of them.
Oh, and they were crucial. They were like third down drops going down the field.
3 of them. Do you realize how many 6 is in a game for Mike Evans?
Oh, you're talking about when Evans?
He had double that egregious amount of drops. Anyways, that was just amazing. But Eric Ebron, here's the deal. He still gets a lot of targets. He had 8 targets last game. He's heavily used in the passing game. And this week he goes up against the Oakland Raiders, who minus 1 week have been a sieve to the tight end position. So I love Eric Ebron this week.
As a waiver signing and as a streaming
I probably have him as a top 5 tight end this week.
Really?
Probably.
Really?
I haven't done my rankings yet, but
I'm
guessing.
That is bold, my friend.
I don't think it's that bold. He's been good on the year, and he's going up against the worst defense against tight ends. How do you not give him a touchdown?
Yeah. So it's more matchup and enough usage. So let's talk about quarterbacks. The guy that's standing out to me, obviously, is Jay Cutler. Is available in a lot of leagues, and he's just been very, very consistent. He's found another weapon in Zach Miller. He's got Bennett. He's got Jeffrey that's been back and mostly healthy. And Langford is obviously giving him points out of the backfield on the passing game, and you're going to get that from Forte when he comes back. I'm surprised, I'll be honest with you. This team seemed like it was in crash and burn mode.
Yeah. I thought they were going to be playing for a new quarterback, and now it seems like they've got theirs.
He's certainly playing well. He's got the Broncos this week.
Ouch.
But his playoff schedule is Washington, Minnesota, Tampa Bay. It's not the end of the world.
That's far from the end of the world. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Minnesota's not that great, but Washington and Tampa Bay in weeks 14 and 16, feast.
So Cutler this week against the Broncos. Aqib Talib is back. Are you sitting him or are you staying in the Flames? Because this is a perfect example of
staying in the Flames.
He's been playing so well that maybe Osweiler gives him a short field a couple times with some mistakes.
You bench him against the Rams, and you did, and you got burned because he was continuing to play great. The difference to me is that
in Chicago.
That it was broken plays, a lot of what happened. So if you watch the game, he looks great from an NFL quarterback standpoint. I am really liking what I see from Jay Cutler this year. but I grab him, I sign him off of waivers as a stash for the playoffs and as a streaming going forward, but I don't play him this week. You know who I do play this week? You'll find out in just a second on our streams of the week. So let's talk.
All right,
D's.
yeah, we'll skip that. Defenses, the Bears have the Broncos at home without Peyton. You know, when there's a new guy coming in, there's always opportunity for a mistake or a fumble, those type of things. Their offense obviously was very bad last week, so I think that the Bears are a really great streaming play. I really am on board with that. Jacksonville plays Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. I don't know how I feel about that one.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of missing weapons for the Titans. I'm not in love with that, but you know, you've seen the Titans give up a lot to fantasy Ds. That's a high risk, high reward type of game because they could score negative or they could end up with 15. Thursday night games, you get a lot of bad offense. Bad offense leads to mistakes, to turnovers. So, you know, how about the Falcons against the luckless Colts? What do you think?
I'm okay with it. I like that they're at home. If this game was flipped, if it was in Indianapolis, I would not probably want to stream them. But it's okay. I mean, Hasselbeck has shown some ability to get things done in that offense. But I doubt high scoring is involved. So I think you got a baseline with Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah.